One of the biggest dangers to our careers is distraction. Every day we pay attention to what won't make us successful, and we fail to pay attention to what will. However, deciding what we do and don't give our attention to is hard and getting harder. For example, in 1976, the average North American supermarket stocked 9,000 unique items. That's a lot. But today that number has risen to 40,000. And yet the average shopper only ever buys 150 unique items, which means that there are 39,850 items you decide to ignore, and the deciding never ends. Do I make my bed now or later? Do I put my left sock on before my right? We constantly have to decide what to look at and not look at on our smartphones. We can't look at it all, that's for sure. Every minute, 300 hours of content is uploaded onto YouTube. Your phone, your apps, your email, your newsfeed, every website that you visit are all cleverly designed to do one thing: capture your attention. In 2006, Inc. magazine estimated that the average worker loses 1.86 hours a day to unnecessary screen time. That's 37.2 hours a month. There is a war going on for your eyeballs. And for many years, I fought that war as your enemy. I was the #1 headline writer in North America. I was Mr. Clickbait. So you know those headlines? 2 cats fell in a pool, you won't believe what the dog did next. That was me. Every month, I generated 250 million clicks for my employers. So that time you wasted an hour of your life because you clicked on a story about 7 foods that melt fat. And then over at the side of the screen you saw another story about 8 emails that will ruin your career. And then an hour later you found yourself reading about Kim Kardashian's cellulite secret. I did that to you. My job was to capture your attention. Actually, that's a polite way of putting it. My job was to stop you from pursuing your dreams so that you could make the dreams of my employers come true. Your attention is valuable. It's either valuable to your career or to somebody else's, and that's why everyone's trying to capture it. We know that the average person checks their phone 150 times a day. The science behind this is called the principle of random rewards, and it's exactly the same principle that Las Vegas slot machines operate on. So you probably know that sometimes when you pull the lever on a slot machine you win, and sometimes you lose. And you probably also know that the randomness of this process releases a shot of dopamine, the brain's happy drug, which is why people get addicted to slots. It's exactly the same with smartphones, tablets and laptops. When you go onto social media, sometimes you get nothing. But sometimes you get an interesting photo. Sometimes you get a fascinating email, and if you're really lucky, a photo of kittens in a coffee cup. And biologically speaking, exactly the same dopamine release that is activated in traditional addictions is also active every time we get a text and every time we go onto Facebook. This is why just being online is addictive. We want to see what comes with the next roll of the screen dice. And all of this deciding what to look at, what not to look at, what to buy, where to buy it, it comes at a cost. Neuroscientists now know that decision overload causes us to make mistakes and depletes our energy. It's as though our brains are wired to only process a certain number of decisions in a day, and once we reach that number, we fizzle out. This is why you lose your car keys. So how many of you have had this experience? You come home from grocery shopping, and as you're juggling bags of food, trying not to trip over the dog who's enthusiastically welcoming you home, your phone rings. You rush to answer it, and it's your mum. And while you're holding the phone in one hand, fielding questions about your dating life and whether you're eating healthily, with your other hand you're putting the groceries away, while still trying not to trip over the dog who knows there must be a treat coming soon. And by the time you're done with the groceries and you're done with the phone call and you've given the dog his treat, you have no idea where you left your car keys. And it's not because you're forgetful or getting old. It's because you've overloaded your attention. You simply can't do everything at once. So the science behind this is very clear. Attention is a limited resource. There's only so much of it to go around. It estimates that the processing capacity of the human brain is around 120 bits per second. That's the amount of information traffic that we can pay attention to at any time. In order to understand a person in conversation, we need about 60 bits per second. This explains why you can't talk on the phone to your partner while sending an email to a customer. And know before you object, you can't multitask. It's not scientifically possible. When you think you're multitasking, what you're actually doing is switching from one task to another really fast. And every time you switch, you spend energy. And that's why study after study proves that multitasking makes the quality of your work go down and the quantity of your mistakes go up. And that just makes sense. When there's too much going on in your head at the same time, obviously you make mistakes. And yet every day we are pressured to absorb more and more information. Every single day, 560 new apps are launched, many of which purport to save us time and make our lives easier. But if you were to just spend 2 minutes looking at each new app, it would take you a full 24 hours. And by the time you were finished, there would be another 560 launched the next day. The battle for our eyeballs is getting worse. And as we become overloaded with the agenda that other people have for our lives, the casualties are our attention, our health, our success, and our happiness. I believe that everything you need to succeed is already in your head, but you can't see it because you're too busy giving too much time to things that aren't making you any happier or any more successful. What should really scare you about having a distracted attention is not losing your car keys, but that there are ideas you're not having. There are solutions you're not seeing. There are answers right in front of you that will make your life better and more successful and happier, but you can't see any of them because there's too much noise distracting you.